What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the A7E podcast. This is your host, Jiggadrin. Guys, we are on episode 24 today. Man, thank you so much for coming on, but can you do me a favor and introduce yourself to the listeners, please?
Most definitely. This is Raul, known as LP from GFWP, better known as GetFitWithPit. And thank you for having me.
Yeah, for sure, man. I really appreciate you, taking time to come out. Like, I know it's, like, for the most part, it's not a difficult thing to do, right? But it's like an unexpected thing to do, right?
Correct.
So, having you out here and the people who have, done the effort to come out, like, it means a lot to me because obviously this is my podcast. And I really try to just kind of focus on having guests come out, learning more about them, but also just, having a conversation to share with the people.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, man, thank you. So, tell me a little bit about yourself, man. So, I know you mentioned, when you introduce yourself, tell me a little bit about, the brand and whatnot.
Okay. Well, I've been working on trying to find a way to combine all my, I don't want to say just talents, but combine a lot of the things that I'm good at as far as like photography, videography, being a designer, because I studied in college a little bit of graphic design, and putting it all together to where it can kind of like just let me be myself. So that's where I started, experimenting, like, I need to take the next step on being an entrepreneur and trying to find my way, I guess you can say. So it started off small. It started off with exploring opportunities within the fitness industry, since I was working at Gold's Gym and have been working at Gold's Gym for going over 8 years.
You still work there?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes. I do personal training, but I'll tell you what, it's been a journey.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I first started with the company, I was the 5 a.m. opener. So that was a lot of fun. Waking up to have the gym open at 5 a.m. One thing that brought me to the gym was the fact that I really enjoy people.
Yeah.
So I was a real big people person. So that's the one thing that had me connected with everybody. And from there, I really enjoy also, living an active lifestyle, remaining active, trying to use different avenues for the same common goal, whether it be, running, basketball, enjoying lifting, strength training, and so on.
So, okay, so real quick, when you were opening up at 5 a.m., right? How long were you doing that for?
I want to say I was doing it for at least a good solid year.
Really?
Maybe a little bit over.
Wow. Dang. So what time's the gym even open at? 6? No, 5?
Well, it used to have a different schedule back then. It used to be where we were 24 hours.
Yeah.
So luckily for me, I only had to make sure I was there on Monday before 5. So from Tuesday to Friday, I just had to make sure that I was there on time at 5 to relieve the overnight worker. Now it's a little bit different. But yeah, that was quite the schedule.
Yeah, because, I was at one point, I was going in the morning, and I got 6:30. And obviously, when you go in consistently, you kind of see who's there in the morning, like, across the counter.
Right.
So you expect that maybe they're opening because they're that early or whatever. And then for like some time, I would see a certain person or people, and then all of a sudden, like, I wouldn't see them there anymore. So I was like, I was wondering, like, maybe they got to another shift, or maybe they were just like, you know what, I'm not opening at 5 a.m. anymore. And
luckily for me, what happened was I got an opportunity to get a promotion.
Okay.
And so that put me in the position of what we call a front desk supervisor. And so from there, my shift changed. It was a different opportunity. And so that's where we went with that. That's why if most of the people that I saw at 5 a.m. didn't see me at that time anymore. Okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was barely maybe within the last like 6 months where I was doing like the 6:30 a.m. So, all right. So tell me a little bit about like the brand though, like how, I know that you mentioned you wanted to essentially put all your talents under like an umbrella, so to speak, so you could kind of be yourself. But why that brand, right? And like, how did it come about?
Well, I was working in Gold's Gym, Edinburgh, happened to be at the time, and I started to kind of take this path of becoming a personal trainer. I've always had the idea of the brand. I just never knew how to release it or when was the right time. So when I became a personal trainer, I was like, you know what, this is the perfect opportunity to do this. And so when I when I came up with the idea, there was a lot of different feedback, right? But I had to find a way to how to identify with myself with a symbol or with the brand logo to where I felt like, yeah, this is it. This is me. Yeah. This is who I am. And so once I did that, from personal training, my clients started becoming like a family thing. Like, you know, I saw them every day, you know, one right after the other. And then from the brand, it started becoming, okay, well, this is not just personal training, you know, this is developing to something more. So I was like, you know, I started paying attention to the trends, Nike, Adidas, Under Armour, to name a few. And I was like, how can I add my own personal flavor onto this?
Your own twist to it.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you know what, let me give it a shot. Let me create a couple of shirts to see how this goes, because I like being very custom and creative and having things that are my own. And so I believe it or not, man, I started off with shirts that I already owned, and took it to a guy that I had to connect with that knew how to do like vinyl.
Right.
So we tried that out, and then from there, I would wear it to the gym, and I would get a couple compliments here and there, and people started asking me like, "Hey, where'd you get this?" And I was like, "Oh," in the back of my head, I was like, "We're onto something here." And so once I started getting a couple more like requests, like, "Hey, where are you getting the shirt? Like, how did it come about? Where are you finding this?" You know, I even started going to Ross. I was like, "Man, I need to find clothes that are blank, that fit the style that I use, to start supplying this demand, plain and simple." And so that's kind of how it came about, and I was able to start it from there. And the brand just allows me to be myself. That's another thing on all different aspects of life.
Man, that's awesome. So taking that, so when you came up with it, when you're essentially, you were like, okay, this is it, right? Like, this is where, like, this is what I guess I identify with, or identifies with me.
Yes.
Like, how was it in like the process, like when you started though? I mean, was it one of those situations where like it came about and you were very fortunate and it just like clicked, like everything was smooth, you know, or was it, you know, the other spectrum, you know, where it came about, but actually bringing it to fruition was difficult? Like, how was that?
Well, I guess the best way to answer that is just like everybody else. Everybody has responsibilities, life responsibilities, I guess you can say. And so the financial part was kind of where it was going to be the main obstacle. But at the time, I was doing personal training. So a lot of my time went into doing the personal training. So that kind of fueled it. So whatever extra income that I had that didn't go to, you know, my bills and just responsibilities in general, I was able to start investing slowly, literally slowly. And that's where I brought up Ross, and seeing how I can continue to grow it and come up with different designs. I did have, you know, I guess you can say the supplies, the tools. I did have the tools to start it, and I just needed to put it into work.
Damn, that's so cool, man. I've always, like, I mean, I guess, you know, the creative side of everyone always wants to do something like that, right? Like, they always want, I think everyone has some type of creative side in them that they want to bring, again, like, to fruition in like physical form, right? And I think more importantly, for the most part, people want something that like represents them.
Correct.
When other people are around, like a brand, right? And whatever it is that they do, whether it be like clothes, you know, mine is, you know, essentially a podcast, you know, in anything. But I think that is one of the coolest things is just, you know, bringing your own creativity to, again, you know, the physical form, and then having a brand, a quality brand to represent it. And I think that's something that's very, I don't want to say underrated, but I think that's a step that a lot of people should consider taking, essentially, because I feel like the first step in creativity forces the next step in creativity.
Correct.
And then like literally it's just like a chain reaction. And I feel that there's a lot of people out there that could be very creative and do a lot of good things, you know, even if it's for themselves, whatever. But a lot of people are just like, they always just do it tomorrow, right? It's just always tomorrow, or they just never get around to it. So, you know, hearing you, and I've seen you work, man. Like you've been grinding, and I feel like you're always coming out with stuff. And I'm just like, and I've seen a lot of people wear your stuff too. And I'm like, man, I got one of your shorts.
Yes, sir.
When was it now? I mean, it was a couple months ago now. Maybe 6 months ago, around there. Oh man, comfortable shorts. So the only thing about that was like the size when I got it was perfect. You know, I took on a little different goal with you know, my weight and fitness, and
right.
So now they're a little up there.
Right.
But nonetheless, man, they're comfortable. Tell me a little bit about, if you remember, like they're like the green ones, right?
Correct.
They olive. Olive, and then they have what's that under thing on it? Like the...
Okay, so those shorts that you happen to purchase were called what we call in the brand GetFitWithPit 2-in-1 training shorts. So those were a very popular item that I came across, and only for the fact that not only is a good material and quality with the shorts, but underneath it's got that built-in liner, the tights that we usually pay apart another good $30 or so, just to have that comfort and you know, that mobility with underneath.
Yeah. So and it is comfortable, and you're right, it is a separate purchase. Like and it's actually funny that you mentioned that now, because I do know people who have like their favorite shorts, and then they go and purchase, you know, an underliner or whatever separately, whether it be
the tights,
but it comes 2-in-1, and it also had that like pocket for the phone. Right. I mean, that was cool. Like I think I did know it had that when I got it, but I didn't use it like the first couple of times, and then like one time my short like kind of came up, and I went to put it down, and my like finger went in it, right? I was like, oh, this is a pocket. I was like, and I put my phone there, and I was like, yeah, this works. So,
you know, it's very useful for especially people that like to go running. You know, usually put your phone inside your pocket, and it's bouncing around, very hard and distracting to get your run done. But when you put it in that pocket, it's very secure, and you can continue on with your run and finish off your workout. So I had brought those out during the COVID season, and a lot, as you well know, like for everybody, the gyms were kind of shut down. Yeah, and so everybody was trying to find a way of staying active, and running was a big, you know, fan favorite. Yeah. And at the time, I'm not the biggest runner, but I was trying to get my mile in a day, and so that's where it just came in very convenient.
Man, a mile in a day is good though.
It's not bad.
Hey, no, it's not bad. Hey, so I'm a soccer player, and when I was like training, I mean, I wouldn't do a mile a day. I was doing maybe 2 miles like every other day, which mathematically is very similar. But man, I hate running. But
same.
It's very necessary and very healthy, but I hate it. Right. Yeah. Yeah, because I also noticed when I would go and run around these areas, I would never leave my phone in my pocket because it was annoying. Yes. So it's like, I would have my AirPods in, and I was like, screw it, I'm just going to hold the phone the whole time. And that's annoying too, because my hand's sweaty, and like I don't want, you know, so I'm running with essentially a phone in one hand the whole time, whether it be 7 minutes, 14 minutes, whatever. But yeah, so that's essentially where those shorts could have came in very clutch, you know, and very comfortable. So do you still, like, how do you do essentially your like inventory? I guess maybe that's not the right word, but when you're finished with the design and you sell, do you go back to them? Do you still have that product, or?
It just depends on what it is. Like, for example, I have my staple or my go-to items that are going to be consistently coming out. They might range in color, maybe a slight alteration in design or like the material. Yeah. But I usually have my shorts that I come out with, the joggers, the hoodies. Working on a project to get some socks released as well. But the shirts and the overall design, I guess, is the only thing that sometimes is a limited edition type of item, or it can be where we relaunch it later down the line. Because when I first started, and it brings me to the shirt that I have on right now, this was my first design. And so I had a big good feedback, positive feedback from my first design. So I kept it going for the first couple of months, like 3 months or so. I guess you could say the first quarter. And then from there, I started working on, oh, you know what? I got all these other designs I want to release. It's just like, how can I do this with some strategy and some, some type of structure behind what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's so cool, man. Just like kind of hearing, imagining like the thought process that you could have had and like the planning, because it's not easy, man. Like, especially having like maybe a lot of moving variables and like trying to come out, maybe and focusing on timing as well, things like
Absolutely.
that, So, we'll get back to that in a bit. Tell me a little bit more about, the other interests / talents that you were talking about. So am I correct in saying that a lot of the photography that's like on your profile, is that you?
That's correct.
Oh, really?
Yes. That's kind of like from the personal training part as well. I started to kind of become a fan of the way people, took pictures of their training, whether it be sports wise, cross training. It fascinated me. So I wanted to be able to enjoy that aspect of the craft with everybody that I would see at the gym. One of the biggest things was that I feel like a lot of people down here, they have that potential to be something more than what they visualize in themselves. And the power behind being behind a camera can really do that with the right person. So I really enjoyed that part of it, because I would see the enjoyment that people would get from me, just pressing a button. And they would see the finished product and be like, wow, that's me. And I was like, yeah, that's you. That's how I see, that kind of aspect to it. So I enjoyed that part. But yes, I do all the photography that comes for the page, the Instagram. I do have a selected few that I kind of partner with, collaborate with as far as the videography.
Okay.
Now, I have my reasons for that, but one of the main reasons is I love to see how other people can kind of bring their perspective into the brand.
Yeah.
Like, I can direct it. I can tell them, like, this is what I want. This is the way I want it to come out. This is the vision I have behind it. But now I want to see how you interpret that and how you bring it out in your own artistic way.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, in a sense, of how I can give back to our community as far as the videographers that are doing well or even starting off, and kind of like both give us a name in a sense.
Yeah, man.
Or grow the name.
That's awesome, especially when you allow someone to, again, even if they're just beginning or even with experience, to come in and kind of be a part of a solid project and a solid brand. I mean, even for them, when they're done or even when they're doing it, I mean, I can't imagine like the confidence booster. Again, like that kind of takes me back to like taking the one step of creativity, and then like whenever they're done with a project with you, thinking like, well, you know what, that came out really good. I was like, what can I do next?
Exactly.
So that's so interesting. So, but for the most part, you do videography as well. You do photography, right? You got your brand as well. I guess, is your photography and videography like as a service right now, or are you just doing that to kind of, keep creating the brand as much as possible?
Well, right now I do it more to keep the creative side alive, and as needed. The service is usually for special events. I have a few friends or even my go-to people that will message me like, hey, are you available this date? I do need some photos taken, whether it be a quinceañera, wedding, a family event that they want to celebrate and have, memories made. And then that's where I come in, and they'll message me, and I'll give them, the service that they're required.
Got it. Dang. Yeah, because I would always see the pictures and like, I guess, I mean, would they be like categorized or called like hype videos? Like, or what do you, or like, because you know what I'm talking about, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what would you call those, or what was the structure for that?
I guess I do hear that a lot, like a hype video. The whole reason why I do these videos for each launch for the shirt that's in season or is being released at that moment is to give the viewers and the audience of the brand kind of a visual of what I have behind it. Like when I create each design is to help, like, oh, you know what? I've had a lot of people where they just see the design and they purchase it. It's like, oh, it looks good, it looks fly, like that's the swag that I like. That's, you know, that suits me. And then when they find out, like, hey, you know what, this is what this guy had in mind when he created this, they're like, damn, this is deep. Like this it makes me enjoy it even more because this guy had a detailed blueprint of why he chose this color, why he chose this fabric, why he decided to, you know, the detail part. And that's where people get like a kick out of it. It's like, wow, that's a lot more to this shirt or to this, you know, pair of shorts or cap than I really thought.
Yeah. So essentially you do like a video, maybe a project for like each launch for like
Correct.
Each design.
Well, that is the goal.
That's the goal.
Yes, because
okay.
Right. Well, the reason why I say that's the goal is because remember, going back to most of the income, or you know, the I guess you could say the money behind it was coming from my personal training. Mm-hmm. So doing the personal training, I had to put a lot of time into the clients and work and responsibilities. So that's what was fueling it at the time. So with that being said, I would come out with the items first, and the money I would get from, I guess, the sales, I would turn it into more items, and then from there, I would try to bring out the video. And so I'm playing a little bit of catch up because I was so excited about all my designs that I just wanted to get them out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so once I had the designs out there and I was like, okay, now it's time to let people know what each design means and what it means to me and why I created it.
Yeah, no, that's actually a good, like essentially a story behind each launch, a
Correct.
story behind each design. Yeah, that's good. That makes a lot of sense. Have you, in your personal training, is it like, you know, you're doing like one-on-ones essentially, right? Have you like ever thought about structuring it in a way where you're doing like multiple people at the same time? Obviously not in person. I mean, I know there's options out there like for group trainings, things of that nature, essentially to be more efficient, you know, with your time and energy, and also could, you know, multiply the income depending on how you do it. Have you ever thought about like a strategy like that? Or
Absolutely. When I first started becoming fresh with personal training, I would see a lot of people doing it in different ways, and I would start to imagine like that's the level I want to get to. You mentioned group training. I'm really big on the youth, especially a man of children. I want my kids to have the best type of not only upbringing, but, you know, have the best services as far as personal training, nutrition, and such. And so I see their friends. I see how they're connected to their, you know, their group, their circle, and how much enjoyment they get. And then that's where, you know, I've thought about teaching a bigger audience. I've even thought about turning this into or combining it with public speaking.
Yeah,
to reach more audiences. But I've always said, every time I bring this up to somebody, I always said I gotta have enough to say before we go to that route.
Okay.
And I know I've come some way, but I feel like I got some more to go before we take that next step.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. Like the more you have to say, essentially, you know, I mean, I wouldn't say easier that it can be, but you know what? I've always thought about that. It's like, how do like public speakers specifically, how do they, young ones,
Right.
because there's some young ones,
Right.
How are they able to be like so confident, you know, whenever they go, you know, to public speak somewhere with such a short life? Not that, you know, it's short, but
It's very true.
You know, without so much, or without having all the experience that they have left. But I think a lot of it comes from obviously their current experience that they've lived so far, but also experiencing other people's experiences as well. Yes. You know, when they say that you can learn from other people's mistakes, things of that nature, I think they take a lot of those things into consideration, whether it be like personal, relationship, business, whatever. Reading books, I mean, essentially what books are the experiences of other people, right?
Right.
And when you read it from from beginning to end, you absorb someone else's experience, so to speak, and you learn. And when you learn, you can speak on that, you know, lesson or experience as if it was your own, you know? So, yeah, I mean, this is public speaking has always been a very big interest to me. I'm a coach for young soccer kids, right?
Okay.
And I've had 1 or 2 or 3 teams, and I find myself sometimes like I don't even coach. I find myself like just speaking to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
In that type of manner, and like it just feels really good, because especially like when you see the kids like engage a lot and they're listening and they come and ask you questions about the things you said, like kids are listening and they're wanting to learn, and I know you say you take a lot of like interest like in the youth.
Right.
Have you thought about, besides like public speaking, like another type of potential like engagement with the youth?
Well, you mentioned this, and it sounds like a lot of what I go through as far as like finding your purpose. And I'm pretty sure, like yourself, I'm a very big, strong believer in God has a reason why we're all here, and having that purpose. And just a lot of people just struggle to find it. Mm-hmm. And I feel like this brand allows me not only to be myself, but to be able to connect with a lot of different people from all different walks of life. And that's where, I smile. I sometimes I just think about it, and I smile because I'm making an impact, or I feel that I'm making the impact just by being myself. And God is putting me where I need to be in order to fulfill my purpose. Mm-hmm. And when you mentioned the youth, I've thought about like, what entry point am I going to go besides sports? Also possibly like mentoring within the church and something like that. And I have a lot of friends that do these type of positions, and there's a lot of admiration that I have for them to be able to do this along with living their life, and at the same time being able to dedicate their life to the Lord. It's very admirable.
For sure, man. That's awesome. I think I definitely think that would be like a phenomenal step, for you. I've seen you engage with people. I haven't seen you engage with youth.
Right.
But I mean, you have a type of personality that, that's calm, but that also can deliver like messages and speak to people very well.
Right.
And I think that's a very valuable, characteristic that, is necessary mm-hmm. for anyone that wants to connect, mentor, or public speak. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
So that's incredible, man. Do you worry about ever like feeling like you want to do too much? Do you ever get concerned like you're trying to take maybe too many steps too fast? Or do you feel pretty calm right now? Like, is that vision essentially tunneled? Or because I think the last episode that I did, I mentioned that one of my negatives, and I know this and I'm working on it.
Okay.
I have what people call like, shiny object syndrome. Essentially, it's like I have a lot of interest, but because of that, when I see something like over here and I'm like, maybe I could be good at that, and I walk towards it.
Jump.
Yeah, I jump. And then I look over here, I'm like, maybe I can be good at it, and I'm over there. So essentially, it's like I'm left and right, and sometimes that takes me off the path of walking straight.
Right.
Do you ever go through something like that, or how do you feel confident essentially in how you walk?
Well, I think like many people is that when you feel that you have a lot of different abilities and talents, that you're like, well, which way do I go? And not by picking one doesn't mean the other ones are incorrect or wrong. Mm. It's just you have to take one at a time. There was a moment where I was like, you know what? Just like you mentioned, I was like, should I go after singing? Because like we mentioned about public speaking, a lot of people are listening if you have something to say that attracts the listeners or even your audience. But music is a different animal within itself, and if you're able to relay your message through the art of music, well, that's just another level. That's like iconic.
Yeah.
And so another talent of mine would be like dancing. I really enjoy the art of dance.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different styles of dance, of course. I've learned a couple, and a lot of people that have been witness to seeing me dance. They're like, where did you learn?
Yeah.
And even my family, they laugh because they're like, what? Like, where did you? Yeah, and I honestly, I just feel the rhythm. I feel the rhythm.
Also, like naturally.
For the most part, natural.
Yeah.
Because when I was younger, of course, I was a lot more timid. But there's a lot of scenarios that were coming up, like quinceañeras, weddings,
Yeah.
and I didn't want to be the kid or the teenager that just was embarrassed or felt out of place.
Yeah.
So I started. It might sound a little silly, but I started like looking at music videos, and I would feel it, and I'd just be like, okay, that this is what it looks like, and then so from there it developed. But then it just became like more of a rhythm thing, and it's like, okay, I've never danced this before. I see people dancing it, and I see the steps, and I could feel them, and then from there I gave it my own personal touch, my own personal flavor. So talking about all the different talents, it's I don't see that I get overwhelmed. It's just I want to be able to touch each of them before you say it's too late, right? Yeah. Because everything has like its trend and everything has its timing per se, right? But I try to, keep a clear mind and try to focus on one thing at a time. And with the brand, once again, it allows me to do this and still leave room for more growth and how can I incorporate this other talent in there too? And that's where I get fun. That's where what I enjoy the most out of making these hype videos, these motivational videos, is I'm able to invite not only my people, but different people that wouldn't even have considered doing this and give them an opportunity to feature, to, collaborate and give their own style, their own flavor, because I see it in them. And that's one thing about the brand is, I like I mentioned about purpose, is I feel like we're all here to leave our mark. And that's a big saying of mine. And this is the way I'm leaving my mark, but it doesn't stop here. And I feel like we're only scratching the surface. We're only getting started. And that's why, I smile, because I know there's so much more to do, and there's so much more that we as a community and as a world can accomplish if we just keep our eyes on the bigger picture.
Yeah. Hey, you're 100% right, man. That's so cool. Do you listen to Russ by any chance? You don't like Russ?
No, I was gonna.
Guys, that's the end of the episode. Okay.
I was gonna say when people would see me at the beginning when I started growing my hair, is that they were like, "Hey, you look like Russ," and I was like, "Oh, okay. I don't know who that is, but all right." So then I searched them. I was like, you know how it is when most people say you look like this person. I was like, dude, I don't see it. Yeah. It's like, okay, you're taking the small characteristic, and all right, that's cool. Whatever. Like, appreciate it, I think. But I listened to a couple of songs, and I like his energy as far as the messages that he's delivering, and anybody that puts passion behind what they're doing, I have nothing but most respect for them.
I think Russ is, not to kind of go in that direction, but
right.
Russ is undeniably one of the artists. He's independent, by the way.
Okay.
Right. So everything he's done, he's done.
Wow.
Right. So it's not like with one of those like major labels where it's like they set you up, right? Everything that he's done, the numbers that he's done has been essentially him. And I say that because, you mentioned about anyone who has passion behind what they do. Oh my gosh. Like he delivers that passion. You can feel it through the music. The reason I bring Russ up is because, you mentioned that, you don't really feel too overwhelmed, right? And my question was, do you feel overwhelmed with so much? And there's one verse that he says that I literally always come back to. And when I say it, like, it helps me not be so distracted. It's, he just says, direction is more important than speed, right? So it's like, moving where you should be moving is essentially like more important than moving fast in a lot of directions, right? Like, as long as it's like, it also brings me back to like the rabbit in the hare, right? The child story, or when you were a kid, it's like the turtle is the slowest thing on earth, but he kept walking towards his goal as slow as he needed to. And the rabbit, knowing that he was fast and being distracted, which is where I relate to the most, ends up beating the hare, beating the rabbit. And every time I listen to that song specifically, is, direction is more important than speed. I'm just like, okay. It's like, stop trying to get somewhere too fast. And no matter how slow it takes, like, focus on your purpose. Because if you're trying to go fast on something that's not your purpose, it's like by the time you get there, essentially you're not going to be satisfied. And you're just going to wish that you would have stayed on the path no matter how slow it would have, or how long it would have taken you,
You have to go at your own pace. You have to stay in your own lane. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, and I mean, I know we touched on it a couple times before, and it's so difficult to feel that way. It's so difficult to feel that way because it's just, again, not to reiterate too much, but it's so just difficult, difficult to feel that way because of just everything around us, man. It's like, especially like, for example, like a startup podcast or a startup brand.
Right.
I mean, I don't know your mentality, or your experience specifically, but like sometimes I look at like other podcasts. I enjoy podcasts.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, man, look at, like, for example, the latest one that I've been watching after Joe Rogan is Theo Von. He's just a comedian.
Okay.
Funny, like, but I mean, every video, millions of followers. I'm just like, how does that even happen?
Right.
Like, not that my goal is even that, but it's like, how does that even happen where you're having a conversation and you have like thousands and millions of views? And I'm like,
right.
But then I'm like, okay, direction is more important to me. What's your purpose? My purpose is just to have a conversation with every single person that sits across from me.
Right.
Whatever happens, obviously, with my effort, helping it grow, or, doing the necessary steps it takes to, increase the engagement of the podcast, whatever. But whatever happens in that time frame will happen. You know what I mean? As long as I stay focused on the goal.
Yeah, you stay true to you and it will grow organically.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So why don't you tell me about when you started, right? Like the brand. How was the support system there? Because I would be lying to everybody right now if I told you that I didn't have a good support system and that everything that I ever did was difficult. That's not true. I was very fortunate to have a family, everyone in my life essentially support me in literally anything that I do, right? When I was playing soccer, as a career, boom, anything that I wanted to do, support.
That's awesome.
Hardly ever, I don't even think I can even think of a moment where anyone was like, hey, that's crazy. Like, you shouldn't do that.
Right.
You should consider this and that. But so my support system, and it's helped, but that's essentially not always everybody's story. Right. How was it like for you?
Well, I would say that it wasn't necessarily the best, but it wasn't the worst. I'm very independent in the fact that if I believe in something, I'll pursue it 100%, and nobody can really change my mind when it comes to that. So I'm not going to lie. When I first started the brand, I had my closest people that I thought would just, jump right all over it and show some type of small support or some kind of like, keep going kind of thing. And it turned out at the very beginning that it was the complete strangers that were the ones that were, oh man, do you got any more of those shirts? And the best part for me, and I felt like the most rewarding, was my everyday people that these, strangers per se, right, would come up and ask for items were in front of, my everyday people. So I would have to, unfortunately, interrupt our conversation that we were having and be like, oh, give me 1 second. But they would get to witness it and they would get to see it firsthand. And they could see what I was doing was actually happening. Yeah. And so for me, that was a rewarding part, because eventually, full circle, the people that I least thought would support ended up supporting, or wanted to know what I was doing next, or wanted to know how they could help. And of course, I would have loved it the other way around, because I feel like I'm that type of person. I love to support people that are thinking outside the box, that are going against the grain, that are bringing something new to the table that has never been done, or at least that I've grown up in the the mindset of the community where, who do you think you are? Like, you can never do what that person's doing. Yeah. That person lives across the United States, and that's why it's popular. That's why it's this. That's why it's that. And I truly believe it really doesn't matter where you come from. It matters what's inside, and that passion behind it. If you never give up on who you are, you stay true to who you are, and you give everything you got, you can really leave your mark on this world.
Yeah, for sure. Man, so why do you think it's like that, though? Do you know what I mean, though?
Yeah, I do, 100%.
Real quick, though, before we get to that, I'm a sucker for helping people out, or at least showing support as much as I can when I see them, like, really just trying to make something happen. I'm gonna be 110% transparent with like everyone listening. I've supported people's like ideas or like ventures
Right.
that I didn't even agree with for the
Right.
most part. Like I didn't even see whatever, but like I've supported because in my mind they're putting in the effort. In
Correct.
my mind, I can make them feel the necessary way to feel to keep going
Right.
by a simple support. Like, and I'll do that now. And it's recently, I try to reach out more people in the community and
Right.
here in the area. And I'll be like, hey, what are you doing? When are you going to be in town so I can go show support? Or how much is it? Blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't even think about it twice because for me, it's not even about the transaction. It's not even about me actually getting your product or you getting my money. It's about the way you feel when you notice or you acknowledge or experience that someone's listening, someone's watching, and
Right.
someone's supporting. I think more importantly, that's bigger than the actual transaction of a product or money itself. But when you know and you feel that people are supporting you, it's like, again, that gives you the motivation to keep going, right?
Almost like a reassurance.
Exactly.
too.
Reassurance,
Right.
like, hey, you know what? Maybe I am walking on the right path and I'm doing things right. So then let's get back to why do you think it's like that? Why do you think it's and it usually is. And it's so strange. But that's the truth. Maybe it was like a Facebook post, something. I can't remember where I seen it a while back.
Mm-hmm.
When they say it's like sometimes it's, the sad part is that your biggest support system comes from strangers.
Yeah.
And not the people closest to you.
Right.
No, in your opinion, it doesn't have to be. Why do you think it's set up that way?
Well, I mean, you mentioned posts, and I've seen posts that say you'll have 1,000 followers or thousands of followers, right? But you'll get less than 100 likes on what you're doing. And I've been witness to that, and I can't say why I think it's like that. I'm very similar to what you said. You see somebody trying, you support that person with even the simplest, like, hey, keep it going. I see you, bro. Like you're keeping that grind alive. Or a lot of times I'll comment on my everyday people or just people I haven't seen in a while, but I'm following them and I'm seeing them, the grind, and I'm seeing the will, the hustle, the determination to finish what they started. And I'll throw in a comment like, hey, congratulations, girl. I see you doing your thing. Mm-hmm. It could be people that they're not even like you said, strangers, like, you know what I mean? Why is it like that? Man, I wish I could put, my finger on it, but I try not to worry about that too much. I mean, you can only control what you can control.
Yeah.
And so I feel like as long as I stay true to myself and I keep it going, and it makes me happy. That's got to be number one. And you feel like you're making some type of a difference and fulfilling your purpose. Most importantly, then we'll worry about that another day.
Yeah. You got the right attitude there, man. I think you're spot on with that. Is we don't know what the reason is, and honestly, would we like it the other way? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. But typically that's not how it plays out, and that's okay.
Yeah,
that's 110% okay. We gotta keep doing what we gotta do, with the vision that we got. And, the people who jump on the boat along the way, you'll make space for them,
Right.
It's always about making, the dinner table longer, for people to come and join when they want. And if they don't, that's completely okay. But for the listeners, I do want to say this. For people that are on a creative path, people who are trying to create something from nothing, who are working on a passion or an interest that's not your everyday, like 9 to 5, your typical work job, taking all things into consideration, things as family, work, bills, daily stresses that, every human being experiences, seeing somebody still trying to do more from the outside is inspiring, but from the inside it can get tiring. Like it's a lot, right?
Right.
So just any type of support, like even a like or review, like you don't have to, but I guess what I want the listeners to know is that we notice and we don't notice. Like we notice because we know how it feels when we get that support.
Right.
And then we try not to notice because when we don't get the support, I guess we try to just put it in the back of our heads and just keep moving forward.
Absolutely.
That's why every every episode I end it with, I'm so grateful for everybody that listens, people that message me, oh my gosh, like I love the episode, and it makes us feel good, like we're on the right track.
Correct.
So a quick moment there, everybody. I do appreciate everybody that takes the time to listen to my podcast. There's one person in specific. I won't say the name because I don't know if she'll care, but she has listened probably to, I would say 7-8 episodes in the last 7 days.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? So it's like she just came across the podcast maybe 2 weeks ago. So she's almost done with everything that I got. And that's kind of like, oh man, I got to produce more content because there's someone out there who's almost finished. So to that person, thank you so much. You know who you are. You've already messaged me like 10 times. Thank you for that. Cool. So, all right. So when you started the brand, or, from the time that you started, well, first of all, how long have you been with that brand?
Well, with my luck, I started it right before COVID happened.
Okay.
So it was about October, early October. Of course, I had the idea before, right? But officially got it into the works and moving forward would be late October when I actually got my first batch of shirts.
Yeah.
I already had my supplier manufacturers going from who I order from. Designs have always been ready. So I'd say about going on, we're 2022, about 3-4 years.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. In that time span, can you think of some of the moments like that were your, sorry, just looking at time, some of your moments that were your worst moments that you were just like, I guess, if any, you don't have to have any worst, and some of your best moments, like with the brand?
I guess some of my worst moments would be when I felt that I was releasing more designs, they weren't moving. So it wasn't the best feeling, but I always left it on my shoulders. Like, if you can't get people to see your vision, then you're not working hard enough. So if these are still here, but you believe in it, then you need to keep getting your message across on why, other people should be invested in this, the bigger picture per se. And then my best moments are always going to be the fulfillment of people like yourself, how you mentioned the girl that's messaged you 10 times and how she's seen all your episodes within those 2 weeks, or within those 7 days of being a viewer for 2 weeks. And when people are trying to get every design that I've come up with just to have, like, to create their collection like I have, that's very rewarding. And then also when I create those motivational videos, when I have people come up to me and tell me like, hey, I really enjoyed that. I see what you're doing. Keep going. You're doing great kind of stuff. I guess those would be my high moments. Yeah. But or just seeing those people come around also, like we mentioned, like the people that didn't jump on board right away, but they're coming around, when thing is flowing and is going well. That's funny in itself.
Yeah. When you see people coming around who kind of essentially hesitated to jump on board, it's like, all right, it's working. You know what I mean? Like, there's something here, and they're seeing it, they're hearing it. So
Well, that brings me to a point right before we keep going, is that there's a time with my very close friends that I was creating the Get Fit with Pit brand. And I was like putting it on everything. Get Fit with Pit, my workout, everything is Get Fit with Pit. And people started calling me that. And people that I didn't know or didn't know my name were calling me that. And I was just like, it's catching on, right? Yeah. And then the moment that I had some of, I guess, the people that I didn't feel supported, or would never support, when I had them calling me by that, I was like, all right, it's working.
It's branding.
Yeah, it's working.
I'll be honest with you, man. When you introduced yourself, that was the first time I heard your name, your name. I mean, I'm always like, obviously me and my fiance always see you at the gym, right? Fist bump. And she's always like, I'm always like, hey, I thought your name was Pit, right? Okay. Get Fit with Pit. And then actually like a week ago or whenever it was, and I told her you were going to come on the podcast. It was Raul, right?
Raul.
Raul. She was like, you know his name Raul? I was like, no way. I was like, his name's not Raul. And I was like, and I asked her, like, how do you know that? And I forgot what she said. She's like, I think I saw it somewhere. And I was like, that's incorrect. It's got to be Pit. I was like, if it's not Pit. But yeah, I mean.
Well, for the viewers out there, the reason it's Get Fit with Pit is not only do I identify with the pit bull as far as being, pit bulls are short, stocky, but they're pound for pound, and they're known for their bite, because once they sink their teeth into something and they're never letting go. So not only do I feel like I do things in that same manner and I have that pound for pound element, it also stands for my form of training, or the training that I like to take part in, which is performance intensity training. So there's double meaning behind it. And as many people as I have that call me Pit, I had all the people that have known my name from day one, and I started my branding, and now they call me Pit too. Whether you met me like that or you know me as that now, that I got that going, everybody's saying it.
Do you mind what they call you?
No, not at all. I mean, it's like I said, it's what I identify with. It was created for a reason. But I love my name, of course. My name is Raul, and it's from, I'm a junior. So I have a lot of respect for my name and the power from, my dad and stuff like that.
Cool. So are you, I think when I came up to you and asked you, if you want to come on the podcast, you mentioned something about, like you're into basketball.
Yes.
And I think you briefly mentioned, if I'm incorrect, correct me. You had like essentially your community was not based around basketball, but do you essentially use that like as a vehicle to engage, or?
I do, only because besides, lifting weights and what I call lifting spirits at the same time, as I don't just lift weights, I lift spirits at the same time with that energy. You mentioned about like how you see me and we fist bump. Well, see, I call it pound cake. Like, you know what I mean? Like we're I feed off of your energy. We fist bump. I'm getting the energy from you to keep me going, motivated. So it's just little things like that. I have a reason for everything that I do. It's premeditated, pre-orchestrated. And so the basketball community, I've always enjoyed basketball since I was younger. I'm sure a lot of, the viewers can relate to this. Michael Jordan, just, the overall dominance during that era. And when I grew up, he was just something that this world has never seen before. So I grew up in that era, and I just kept up with it after, Michael Jordan, along with the Allen Iversons. And so I tried to play right when I was younger, and I was like, I started getting the hang of it. So that's how I started. And then I would go to the local parks and, meet a lot of different people. And then the community, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed like what it brought, what the game of basketball was teaching me, and the team camaraderie, the brotherly love, the support, the way you would make people smile when you would, for me, when I pass somebody the ball and they score, and the joy that they get from scoring, whether they're the best player on the court or the worst player on the court, it made me feel like a type of fulfillment that is undescribable. And that's where the basketball community, I get a lot of joy from just interacting with them and hearing what they got going on in their lives and their family, and it's just a lot of positive energy. And so it brings me to my point. I got this new video that we're working on. It's called Brotherhood, Bigger Than Basketball. And it talks a lot about, or it's going to show you a lot about our bond that we have on the court, but also off the court. And then that's going to be what we're going to be releasing the 26th of May. So y'all be looking out for that. Cool.
So that's in 12 days.
Correct.
So are you essentially done with the shooting?
No, we haven't even started. We're going to start on the 26th.
Okay.
We're going to shoot on the 26th. Probably be releasing the video about the 28th, 29th, depending on what my team says.
Okay, cool. Yeah, man. So is that, what would you call that video? Like, what kind of video would it be? That makes sense.
I mean, it's a motivational video because I'll give a little sneak peek of what it's about. It's basically our bond on the court while we're playing. So it's going to have a lot of cinematic views of us, playing the game, enjoying, how I mentioned, enjoying people scoring off of assisted baskets.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's also going to really give you that other element that most people don't see is how we, interact after we're done, after we finish the game. And I have a really good friend of mine that happens to be a pastor, and he, would invite us to a church and we would play. And what I really enjoyed about that was the fact that we would all join in prayer before we started, keeping the main thing, the bigger picture, first and foremost before the actual, the game commenced.
Yeah.
So that's what we're bringing to the table with that brotherhood video, more like a motivational, inspirational video to keep the main thing.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's so cool. May 26th, you're working on that video. You guys sound pretty efficient if you're able to shoot that and deliver it within, what'd you say, 4 days? No. Was that 2 to 3 days?
Right. So I have the concept ready to go. I have a videographer that I've already locked the date up. Yeah. And also, I guess the hardest part is the casting.
Yeah.
Because for this video, it's supposed to require about at least a good 10 model actors / friends and family that happen to enjoy the game of basketball that I can feature in there. And so I have to try to work around their schedules.
Yeah, of course.
And so we come up with the date, the 26th. I got the green light from the videographer, and I already have the vision in my head. So we're just gonna, put the pen to paper and produce it.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Have you so do you enjoy reading at all?
I do.
Just been a while.
It's been a while. You know how it is. Mostly everything's electronic now.
Yeah, for sure.
So everything that I've been reading lately is more electronic. I guess I would say I'm more of a visual learner. So a lot of the things that I try to brush up on, getting better at certain crafts, I would do through YouTube.
Yeah.
Videos and some type of programs that I listen in on and podcasts as well, like we talked about.
Yeah, the only reason I ask, and first of all, the only reason I enjoy physical books is because I like to keep them, right?
Nice.
But the reason I ask is because that book right there, Tim Grover's Winning,
okay, right,
that top yellow one there, that's his second book to the first one he wrote, which is called Relentless, but it talks about specifically, because that was, Michael Jordan's trainer, personal trainer, right? And that was Kobe's personal trainer.
Interesting.
So, when he writes that book, and I got maybe 25 pages left, but at the moment has spoken about essentially what winning is, what winning really is, and what winning meant to athletes like Michael Jordan and Kobe.
Got it.
And just like how absolutely different they were mentally than any other person to ever experience the game. He also mentions a lot about Dwayne Wade, but he really puts things into perspective about people that want to be successful and people that want to win, and he shares some of the experiences and mentalities and thought processes of people like Michael Jordan and Kobe, and the way that they would interact with their teammates and the things that they would do, how long they would train. Like everything was. It was borderline obsession if it wasn't obsession, right?
Okay.
But towards the only goal that they wanted, and was to win.
The ultimate goal.
The ultimate goal, right? And and I asked because that's a really good book. Somebody recommended that to me. I didn't think I would enjoy it that much, but it's like some of the things that Tim Grover says, it's like, wow. You really ask yourself, like, do I really want to win? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like, it does put things in perspective, and if you ever get around to it, even short notes to it, I think that would be a book that you'd enjoy, just because it seems like you have similar mentality, in a sense of knowing what it is that you want, and when, like you said, like a pit bull, you sink your teeth in, and when it has that grip, you're gonna go for it. So, yeah. When we came back from that pause, you mentioned, well, I think a lot of people have a misconception of like when I bring people on the podcast.
Okay.
I think there might be a misconception of me being 100% comfortable. Like when people, brand new people come in, And that's not true. Like, obviously, if you're like a family or whatever, then it's a little easier. But
Right.
there's still that little, because I'm a one-man show right now.
Gotcha.
Right? So it's like, there's that little like back of my pressure. It's like if something goes wrong with the video or anything, like it's tough. But not even that. It's like speaking to somebody that, you know, I haven't interacted with too much, you know, and then really getting to speak to them, you know, one-on-one for, you know, a specific period of time in its own is the exploring part, the exploration of, you know, the unknown. Is because, okay, now we're in a one-on-one. It's like we hardly have ever had a conversation, you know, but that's also the fun part.
Absolutely.
You know, so I start off nervous. I'm still nervous. I get nervous. I'm transparent with everybody. But as the conversation goes, you realize you're just having a conversation, you
Absolutely.
know? And that's what we're here to do. And, you know, so having, you know, being able to record that, you know, the video of it and the audio of it, is the part that pressures me the most. But for the most part, yeah, I've never had too much an issue, and but it's a part of the process. I hope, you know, everybody hopes to end up like the bigger podcasts or the bigger brands, in the sense that I can have somebody come in and take care of the audio and the video, and then really let me focus on the conversation. Like, really, you know what I mean? Yeah. Really let me be in 100% of the conversation. And I think, you know, hopefully one day I'll be able to get to that, you know, to that point.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. So, all right. Where do you look if you do? Mm-hmm. Some people don't run out. Some people, I've met people who are just, you know, 1,000% of the time, and I've met people who operate on 2% of the time. Where do you look for inspiration, like, when you have none? Do you ever feel gassed out? Like, do you ever feel like, you know what if I just stop right now? Have you ever felt those type of feelings, or ever thought those type of thoughts?
I would have to say, yeah, I've had those thoughts come across my mind, but they don't last. They don't last very long, only because of, in my opinion, what's at stake. And I feel like the path that we're going with the brand and with myself and my purpose is there's a lot counting on you to make this happen. Uh-huh. And it's not only for you per se, it's for your legacy and for who those come after you. Uh-huh. And, you know, and so on. So I'll be honest with you, my motivation it stays pretty strong on the big picture. There are times where I struggle with other things, just like anybody else, you know, like self things. But like we mentioned earlier as well, is that I try to keep the main thing. And as long as I have joy in my heart and, you know, I feel like I have God's favor in what I'm doing, that all this will happen when it's supposed to happen and how it's supposed to happen.
What's the main thing?
The main thing would be a way to inspire on a grand scale, hopefully one day everyone, that no matter where you come from, no matter how you started, that you can chase your dreams and you can see them come into reality. And how we briefly spoke about, no matter what support system you have, whether it be a good one, but usually with the negative support systems and the communities sometimes that we go through, that you can still make it happen and find your motivation to make your dream a reality. Mm-hmm. And, you know, stop seeing other people live out your dream and make you live your dream. You know what I mean?
Damn. Stop seeing other people live out your dream. That's the one.
Yeah.
That's the one, man. What do you think the difference is? Wait a minute. What do you think the difference is between you, and I say you generally,
right,
and someone else that's living out your dream?
That they got a head start, maybe. Sometimes the case can be, you know, financial. Maybe they had a better opportunity, but I feel like that's where the joy comes, you know, starting from the bottom, the scratch, like the first shirt, making that shirt into 2 shirts, and from that turning into 10 shirts. And then the man, I don't know, I say this a lot, is especially with my close circle, is that I'm enjoying the process.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying the process. And I've had people tell me, I don't want to say it's a negative way, but maybe they were just giving me their own counseling. They were just saying, you're never going to get rich off of selling T-shirts. And I laugh because I'm like, that's not what I'm doing. I'm doing something so much bigger, but it just happens to be that this is funneling into that. Yeah. And so we're on our way.
Yeah, man. So do you think that there's ever, and this might be a little slightly off topic. No, it's not actually, because you mentioned that you're in love with the process.
Right.
Which I think is ridiculously important.
Okay.
Like, it's super important. Truly. If you're so focused on the goal, but you dread the process, I really feel you're going to have a hard time getting there. Do you feel that there's people out there, or is there such a thing where people are not afraid, maybe concerned is the word, that they're so in love with the process, when they get to where they want to go, the process is gone, and there's nothing else to be in love with?
That's interesting the way you put it into perspective, because I think at one point certain goals were instilled on why I was doing what I was doing, and then once I got to that goal that I thought was the main thing, or some of the main things, I realized that no, that's we're not done yet. Mm-hmm. Like there's still more to go. Like, you got here in this amount of time, so let's see how further you can get in this amount of time. So it almost starts to become like challenges within yourself and with what you're trying to do. But yeah, like I would say that you do fall in love with the process. You do enjoy it, as long as you remember why you're doing what you're doing. Yeah. Then I don't feel that you lose that passion, you lose that drive behind it.
Yeah, and I also think that if you are in love with the process and you do end up getting to where you want to go, I think the next step would be, like you mentioned, to it starting to be about challenges. Like, where else can you challenge yourself? You also have to find a way to, again, keep being creative to where you can keep that process going, while reaching your goals along the way, right? Essentially, that's what milestones are. Yeah, I've always wondered that, because I feel like there might be a psychology behind some people who... Have you ever heard the expression, or people say that some people are literally afraid of success?
I have.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't heard it too much, but I've heard it a few times, and it makes kind of sense. It's like the idea of people that want to be successful, I would assume the majority share, right? The idea of wanting to be successful. But it's like, I feel like there's some people out there who, I don't like to say fear or are scared of being successful, but they can't really imagine what it looks like. And because they can't imagine what it looks like, or, essentially imagine what it feels like, then they're timid on their way to what it takes to be successful.
Right.
I had this weird thing. It's the weirdest thing. It's almost borderline dumb that I had. Okay. I was because I feel like I'm better now. I would sometimes not finish things because I felt when I was done with it, there was nothing left to do. That's why I asked that one question. And the biggest one that I would do, it was just so dumb. It's like, generally I would start something, I would be like 2% away from finishing it. And then what I would always think is like, I'll finish it later because it'll give me something to do. Like I still have something to do. And I think, subconsciously I always felt like I needed to be busy. Right. So I would always pile these things up to do to make me feel accomplished, right? But sometimes we mix up, we confuse being busy with being, progressive, right? It's like being busy, you can be busy with anything, but, progressing is, essentially the steps you want to keep taking towards a focused goal. I had this like psychological weird thing up with doors, right? Like okay. This is just completely out there. Every time I would open the door and I know I had to close it, Like I would leave it this every single door.
Nice.
And I would notice it, and there'd be some times where like I would go to close it, and I'm just like, I would leave it open, and I would look at the door, and I'm like, why am I leaving this door open? And like in my mind, my whole life, the way I've ran my life with relationships and experiences with other people is I never, at least I did my best, I never did anything to burn a bridge between me and someone else, because I never knew if me or that person would ever need to cross back over. Yes. So I never wanted to close the door on potential opportunities with people that I knew. And that literally, it manifested itself. Like it was just this physical thing where I could not close any doors, because in my mind, it's like, once I close that door, like it's closed.
Right.
And I would always think back to myself, it's like, well, would you close doors on other people? Like, would you close doors on potential opportunities for you? It's like, it was the dumbest thing, but like I would live my life like that. It's like, I have this relationship with someone. I know this person. We have a good relationship. It's like, I don't want to do anything to close the door on our friendship, whatever type of relationship, because you never know what opportunity can come from that. You know, essentially it's a bigger scale of like networking. And to a point where it's like, you got to stop being dumb. It's like, just close the door, man. So like now, obviously, I got closed doors, but that was there probably for like 2 years where I just like couldn't close doors and feel comfortable about it. I would hear that door close, and I'm just like, I would get this like little irk.
Right.
But I know that it would always just, psychologically, it was because I was always concerned of closing potential opportunities with people that I knew, like in my life, you know.
I don't think you're alone in that.
Yeah.
You know, in that aspect of it.
Yeah, I hope not.
No, I mean, because it's very true. And just to kind of add to that is what you mentioned, the whole business side of it, is that every interaction, every, you know, person that God brings into your life, you never know. Not only are you going to help them, or you're going to impact their life in a positive, you know, light, but you're always going to learn something from somebody. Yeah. And there's always going to be an opportunity for you to grow. And that's why God puts people in your life, is even though you feel uncomfortable maybe at first, you know, you feel like you're not going to maybe gain anything out of it, but everything's for a purpose, for a reason.
I 100% agree. So, yeah, I agree. You made me feel better about that.
Oh, absolutely, man. Like when you were mentioning a lot of the details, I was like, wow, this is a different perspective.
Yeah.
But something that I do believe in.
Yeah. Okay, it's cool. So what else, man? So what's new? So what's not new, but what's new? You know what I mean?
Not sure, man. I'm just trying to keep this going, and like you mentioned about the dinner table, you know, extending it for other people. And so I just try to keep coming up with new designs, new ideas, new launches, and that way I can continue to share this, you know, this vision with the world. But you know how you mentioned like what's new, what's next. I'm trying to also find a way where I can give back to the community and sign local athletes, you know, down the line, to where each school has at least 1 to maybe 2 to 3 athletes representing the brand. And we get to handpick and select them. And you know, one of them happens to be starting with my son, you know. But that's another project. Just like many brands, they sign athletes. That's I think a sign of fulfillment and joy that I can get from doing that. Be able to not only have their, you know, enthusiasm, like wow, like he picked me, like I can't believe that they saw something in me that I would have never thought that somebody would sign me, or whatever the case may be, right? But I feel like that can be rewarding in itself for both parties.
That would be a phenomenal step, though.
Yeah.
Do you mean locally first?
Of course, I think we would have to start locally, and you know, I have a few in mind, and I have a few that are in the works of that I've kind of like per se signed, and trying to get a package ready for them to kind of like, you know, their own gym bag, their own belt, their own, and it doesn't necessarily always have to be in sports, but it does help. Sports teaches you a lot. Discipline, consistency, accountability, camaraderie. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think. I mean, so my fiance is pregnant. Boy or girl.
Right.
I think sports is important.
Yes.
I think sports, being on a team, being with teammates, having a common goal, working together. I mean, those are priceless lessons that, a young kid, is subconsciously learning without even knowing it.
That's true. Very true.
Obviously, I played soccer my whole life, and it does. And people used to tell me, it's like, oh, when I would go and look to work, for different jobs, and sometimes they would ask questions like, they would favor people who have played sports for a long time because essentially you're on a team and you're working together for a common goal. So employers would look for that. But I would always wonder why. But yeah, now I recently got a job 2 months ago, and it's never been more relatable. It's never so purely transition, because now I'm literally on a team. We literally have a common goal, and it's we're constantly just helping each other out, boom, boom, left and right, and that's for a job.
That's cool.
And I'm so comfortable because that's all I've ever done anyway.
Right.
So it's nothing new to me. I understand that there's teammates. I understand there's different mentalities, perspectives, opinions, qualities that I have to adjust. They have to. So it's comfortable. That's one of the benefits that, obviously doing sports young and, having your child in sports is very important. So.
Very true.
Cool, man. So I think that was solid. Why don't we take, a few seconds? Why don't you share with the viewers, how can they get in touch? Where can they look for you?
Okay.
Do they have to go through a series of complicated steps to experience, the Get Fit with Pit brand? What can they do?
Okay. So we are on Instagram, Facebook, a couple of different platforms like TikTok as well. You can look for us at #GetFitWithPit. That's always an easy way to get in touch with us. Feel free to DM us, message us. And there's 2 different ways of getting fit with Pit. You can personally get fit with Pit by training with me, or you can purchase any of the items and you get fit with Pit.
Yeah.
So thank you all for your time and having us. And we look forward to hearing from you all.
Yeah, guys. Thank you. Again, I always say, thank you for listening. This is, it's been an enjoyable conversation for me. It's I really don't even remember how much I love speaking to people and getting their mind,
right.
Until after I'm done. Right. That's always a cool part and weird part about how I do this podcast is I think I mentioned to one of my guests before, it's not that I'm not motivated to do episodes. Right. Is that I sometimes, because of everything else that I got going on, I forget how much I enjoy it. Guys, if there's something out there that you enjoy, don't get too busy where you forget that you enjoy it, because the things you enjoy, you don't want to forget about, Guys, thank you so much for listening to another episode of the A7E podcast. I'm going to call you guys out real quick. I don't know how many followers I got on Instagram. I got 96 subscribers on YouTube. Mathematically, that don't make sense. Nah, I'm kidding, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time. See you.